Hello, 4th grade. This is your video lesson for the week of 4/27/2020. Let's start by making sure everybody is ready to go. Violin and violas, you have your shoulder rests set up. Cello, you have your end pin out to the correct height. Everyone has rosined their bow, and their music is out in front of them. We are still using book 2, so if you don't have your book 2 yet, just use the music PDF that I've provided on Google Classroom. As long as everyone's ready to go, we'll jump right in.
We're going to make today's warm-up nice and easy. We're going to do the D major scale, 2 quarter notes each. Alright, so remember to sit up nice and tall with your feet flat on the floor. We're going to do 2 quarter notes each, starting from open D. 1, 2, D major, go. D, up to E, F, remember there's 2 each, G, A, B, C, high D, back to C, open A, down to G, E, open E. Nice and easy, right? Now let's take a look to really kind of break down. When I say 2 notes each, what I mean is 2 quarter notes each, specifically. 1 quarter note gets, let's say, 1 beat. So if I wanted to turn this right here into a time signature, I'd have to think first, how many of them are there? Well, there's 2. So that's easy. That's the top number. It's 2 something. The bottom number of a time signature, if we remember, really actually means what kind of note gets the beat. Well, if I just told you that quarter note gets the beat, the new time signature becomes what? It becomes 2/4. So this is in 2/4. If it was in 4/4, I would need 2 more quarter notes, because then I'd have 4 quarter notes. Quarter note still gets the beat. Now, let's stay in this time signature of 2/4, 2 quarter notes per measure. Well, 2 beats per measure, quarter note gets the beat. Because that can be a little bit of a misleading way to say it. For me to say, well, in a measure of 2/4, it's 2 quarter notes. Well, it's not really 2 quarter notes. We're going to do our G major scale in just a moment, but let's talk about the rhythm. Here I have a do-day, do-day. Okay, it's not a do-to-data because there is no second line. There's only the one line, meaning it's do-day, do-day. That's how we group 4/8 notes together. This rhythm right here takes up the same amount of space as 2 quarter notes did for our D major scale. We can either think do-day, do-day, the day being the space in between, or if we want to count our numbers, 1 and, 2 and. So up here we have this 1 and 2 and. Same amount of space as the 1, 2 from the D major scale. We just fit more notes into that amount of space. If I wanted to do a measure of 4/4 instead of a measure of 2/4, I'd have to have 8 eighth notes, and that's where we get the 8 for the name of eighth notes. All right, so we're going to do our G major scale this way, but we're going to break it down into the 1 and 2 and, meaning it'll go like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and, like that. Now remember, with eighth notes here, with the do-day, do-day, you need to shorten your bow just a little bit. Okay, don't use too much, otherwise your bow is going to go out of control. Try to keep your bow in the center. Okay, don't use too close to the frog. Don't use too close to the tip. You want to use right here in the center area of your bow. Okay? All right, let's jump into the G major scale. Remember, that starts on open G. 4/8 notes each. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. G, up to A, B, C, notice when I was playing there, I did my strumming pattern was just 1 and 2 and, okay? We're going to do that scale one more time. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. If you felt like you had enough practice with the first one, you can go ahead and skip on ahead, but if you feel like you need a little bit more time, with a little slower tempo, we're going to do this again just a tad slower. Starting from open G. 1, 2, ready, go. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, back to F sharp, E, down to D, back to C, B, A, and G. All right, if you feel like you're ready, move on. We're going to go on to the next part of the lesson. If you feel like you need a little bit more practice with your do days, your 1 and 2 hands, okay, go back and play the scale one more time. You can always pause the video and practice whatever you need to before going on. That's the great thing about the video. You can pause, take a break, practice a little bit more, and come back and finish the lesson with me later. All right. Now, we just talked a little bit about eighth notes. So right now, I want to talk a little bit more about something else that has to do with eighth notes, and that is the eighth rest. We're looking at page 9. Again, you're in book 2 now. Okay, so make sure you're in book 2. If not, I have that handout that I give you guys. Okay, you can reference it a little bit there. So essentially, just like there are quarter rests, there are also eighth rests. Just like there are half rests and whole rests as well. We know the simple plan is that quarter note is also equal to a quarter rest. They both get one beat in 4/4. A quarter note gets a beat of sound, and a quarter rest gets a beat of silence. Now we know that one quarter note breaks down to 2 eighth notes. 2 eighth notes looks like this as a rest. It's a little ball here, a loop, and a stick. Okay? That's what an eighth rest looks like. Now I showed you this because that's what an eighth rest would look like if it was the same as quarter rests. However, that's not really going to happen often. Normally you're only going to see one by itself, which is over here. This is what 1/8 note is worth by itself. It looks like this. It's got a little, it's got the note head, the stick, and it's got this little flag here. Okay? Now, 1/8 note by itself is equal to half of a beat in time signature 4/4. Okay? So if we're in 4/4, we see one of these all by itself, it's only worth half the beat. Okay? It's either worth 1 or and, or 2 or and, One of them by themselves, we just take the other one away. Oop, I knocked down my bow. We just take the other one away, and boom, we're left with just 1/8 note rest all by itself. Now, that's a little confusing, I know, but it'll make a lot more sense when we put it in terms of music. So let's move on to the next thing. We're looking at page 9 still, number 32. This song does a good job of showing us what an eighth note and an eighth rest really mean in terms of music. We have here on the high Ds notes that are quarter notes with the special little dot. Remember that special little dot meaning staccato, meaning a short, stopped bow stroke. We're in 4/4, which tells us there should be 4 beats in a measure. Quarter note gets the beat. So I have 1, 2. That's beats 1 and 2, simple, done. They're short staccato notes. On beats 3 and 4 here, I have eighth note, rest, eighth note, rest. I could break them out like this, 3 and 4 and. Okay, remember, do day, or 3 and 4 and. The and replaces the day if we're talking about our numbers and our beat numbers. So say this with me. 3 and 4 and. One more time. 3 and 4 and. Now, say the and in your head. Ready, go. 3, 4. Guess what? We just said 3, 4, just like normal. However, there has to be that space in between. Just like staccato tells us there has to be a space in between. Staccato notes and eighth notes with an eighth note rest are pretty much the same thing. I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? It's just another way of writing. Okay, the staccato note is just another way of writing this. Okay, it saves us a lot of time. Now, again, you won't normally see these two things together except for in our exercise. This is just there to kind of help us think, oh, that's what Mr. Witt means. He means they're short. There's a rest in between them. They're just like staccatos. Because they are. Let's do this together. Ready? 1, 2. 1, 2. Ready, go. Short, short, rest, rest, short, short, rest, rest, short, short, rest, 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 rest. And then it's done. Okay? Pretty easy stuff, right? Well, now we're going to get into a little bit more complicated things. We need to talk about what's called on beats and off beats, okay? Now, it's a little blurry because I had to blow it up real big to put it on my TV screen. But essentially, when we break down a measure into what we call subdivisions, there are strong beats, weak beats, on beats, off beats. You might hear several different terms for them. They're just meaning which beats get the pulse and which beats get a little pulse, okay? What we call the macro pulse and the micro pulse. Okay, macro meaning big, micro meaning small. So if we look here, I've got a measure of 4/4. I've got do, do, do-day, do-day. Now if we want to think the macro pulse, the on beat, the strong beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, where I put the big boxes. Okay, beats 1, 2, 3, 4, or do, 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 do. Okay? We're ignoring the days, the red circles for now. All right. Here you'll notice there is no day. Okay, that's because do takes up 1 and already. That's how much space it takes up. 2 also takes up 2 and. So there's no need for anything here. But here, 3 by itself only takes up that much. So there has to be an and here. 4 by itself only takes up that much. So there has to be an and here. These red circles, okay, are what we refer to as the micropulse, the off beats, the weak beats, okay? They are what happen in between. So I could break it down to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the little ands in between, okay? They don't get as much emphasis. So, doesn't really matter right here. We still just have strong beat, okay? But here we have 3 and 4 and. Mostly, you're going to hear me simply refer to these notes as on and off beats, strong or weak beats. It doesn't necessarily mean that these ones get significantly louder. It's not like the strong beats are forte and the weak beats are piano. It's not what it means. It just means that there are pulses that we feel big and pulses that we feel small. Okay? So, we're going to use that in our next song here. We're looking still at page 9, but we're going down to exercise 33. And here we have a rhythm rap. I took the first measure from that rhythm rap to show us kind of what I was talking about in my last slide. Now, up here, something new has happened. Let's look at measure 2. I've put this 8th rest on a strong beat, on an on beat this time. If you look below, the 8th rest now lives on 2, which we know is a strong beat, an on beat. So here, the simple is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. But now I've introduced my eighth rest, and eighth rests are half a beat of what? Silence. So it would sound like this: 1 and 3, 4. I have to come in on the off beat. Okay? So try that with me. What I want you to do, we're going to look at measure 2 here. Echo it back to me. Just echo this back. 1 and 3, 4. One more time. 1 and 3, 4. Let's add it to measures 1 and 2. So let's do measures 1 and 2. Okay? Echo this back to me. I'm doing both measures 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 and 3, 4. Now you might be saying, Mr. Witt, how do you know when to jump in on the on beat or the off beat? Okay? How do you know where it's supposed to be? Well, in my head, I'm doing something that's called subdividing. Subdividing is essentially what's happening down here. Do you see how every measure is written out? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's kind of how I'm counting in my brain. So even though measure 1 has 1, 2, 3, and 4 and, in my brain I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? I'm counting every beat even though I don't play on every beat. That helps me in measure 2 because then I can think this way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I knew where 2 had to go because it was in my head. Okay? 1 and 3 and 4 and. If I take out everything I don't need to say, it becomes this. 1 and 3, 4. The and of 1, the 2, the and of 3, and the and of 4 were all just said in my head. Okay? I just put them silently. And that's how I felt this new rhythm. All this exercise does is do that twice. So let's clap it together. I'm going to pat on my knee so I can hold my violin. But let's clap it together. 1, 2, beginning. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 3, rest. Okay? You could even do that if you the rest symbol if you want to, that 1 and 3, 4. Whatever helps you. But the important thing here is that in your brain, you're subdividing. You're quietly counting all of the what we call the micro pulse. Okay, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the tiny little beats that are in between. Instead of the macro pulse, which is just 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got the micro pulse going nice and small all the time while we're talking. Okay? Let's put this to work. We've got a song. Book 2, page 9, number 34. It's not a hard song at all. Okay, we're taking that exact same rhythm that we just did in the rhythm rap and putting notes to it this time. So let's say those notes together. Starts on D. Okay? 1, 2, ready, say. D, D, E, 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 F, F, G, G, A, G, 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 F, E, D. Okay? Just think. 2 becomes silent. All right? F, F, G, G. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. All right. Let's try bowing this together. Instruments up, sitting up nice and tall. This is tough stuff, okay? You need to think about the subdividing while you're doing it. If you're just doing it by ear, that's pretty good, but you want to make sure you understand, well, why does it sound like that? From the beginning. 1, 2. 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, oops, I added an extra D. That's my fault. Okay, but basically, yeah, you notice that I said out loud all of the subdivisions while I was playing. All right, if I just put it in my head, I get the same thing. Okay, now you don't have to do this with your head back and forth. That was just Mr. Witt trying to show you what was going on in his crazy brain. All right, let's move on. Here we have exercise 35. Things become a little different. All right, now we still have that eighth note on the offbeat, eighth rest on the onbeat. But this time we're putting it in different spots. This time we've put it in the back of the measure instead of in the front of the measure. So instead of going 1, 2, and 3, 4, now in measure 1 we have 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. We've now taken 4 out of our subdivision. So let's count and clap it together. You just heard me clap it by myself, but let's do it together. So now 4 is out of the equation. What I'm going to do is while I'm talking, I'm going to say the subdivision. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But I'm only going to tap when I have a new note. Just to give you an example, first measure will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Like that. Okay, I only tap when I know I have a new note. Let's do it together. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Runs out of breath a little bit there. It's a lot of stuff to try and say, but you can just put that up in your head so you don't actually have to say it at all, and then all you end up doing is clapping. So let's put it up in our heads. Let's go a little bit faster and let's clap it together. I'll give you a count off and then I won't say anything. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, you saw me mouthing it, but I didn't say it. I didn't have to say it out loud. All I have to do then is just stomp over my lips, and then it's all up there. Let's bow it together. Super easy exercise. Instruments up, sitting up nice and tall. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. All right? Nothing too hard there, right? Okie dokie. Your homework this week. I know this was a little bit of a short lesson, but this week we're kind of taking just a little bit of a chiller pace this week. Your homework this week is going to be a definitions quiz, okay? For any of you that did the spring break activity where I had you answer a few questions on a Google form, it'll be the same way. Now, what I mean by a definitions quiz is there'll be questions like, what does forte mean? Or what does piano mean? What does 4/4 stand for? Or how many beats does a quarter note get? Things like that. Simple questions that you should know the answers to. Now, don't worry, they won't be short answer. It'll be multiple choice, okay? So the answer will be up there. You won't have to describe something to me. All right. If you haven't submitted a video for any of the past lessons, please take this week to also work on one of those past videos, all right? I'm not super concerned about when the video gets to me if it's late, but I do need it, Okay, I need to see what you're doing. I need to make sure you're practicing. I need to give you proper feedback. Like I said, you won't get in trouble for a late video, but I do really need to see it as soon as I can. All right, guys. I miss you all so much, and I hope you're doing fantastic. I hope you're enjoying your schoolwork and you're enjoying our orchestra lessons here. Take care. Bye-bye.